1. Strategic Military Neutrality and Non-Alignment. GS Paper 2, Bilateral, Regional and Global Groupings and Agreements Involving India and or affecting India's interests. What is the context about? In the statement issued in New Delhi on August 30, the Congress declared that the signing of the LMOA is a fundamental departure from India's time-tested policy of strategic military neutrality. The surprising phrase, strategic military neutrality, however, sits uneasily with the proposition that it is time-tested. Political anxieties about India's growing defense ties with Washington persist despite the NDA government's repeated clarifications that the recent logistics support agreement is not about building a military alliance with the US. How the growing relations between India and US can affect the rapidly evolving power shift. It can trigger more collaboration between China-Pac amidst China's CPEC interests and growing concerns over greater Indo-US relations. US-Russia relations are at nadir since the disintegration of USSR. Recently we have seen more cooperations between China and Russia. Afghanistan has raised concerns over India's reported plans to step up military assistance to Kabul. Has India departed from its non-alignment principle after signing LMOA agreement? The signing of LMOA agreement should not be seen as departure from NAM policy because LMOA doesn't allow US forces to have military bases on Indian soil, unlike Afghanistan or Iraq, thus maintaining India's sovereignty. LMOA is purely a logistics agreement allowing US fleet to use Indian logistical facilities for replenishment and repair facilities. India is not engaging in any military alliance with US unlike NATO. LMOA is an strategic cooperation BW both nations to counter hostile Chinese aggression and territorial assertiveness, is mainly to safeguard India's strategic maritime interests in IOR and APR. LMOA won't be applicable during wartime. What was Nehru's idea of non-alignment? Non-alignment movement was formed in 1961 as an attempt to beat the Cold War by maintaining strategic neutrality to major powered blocs, USSR versus USA, including military blocs like NATO. Nehru's non-alignment has multiple facets. The main reason for such movement was to reflect the strategic autonomy of member states, including the power of independent political and strategic decision-making. It has its origin in India's colonial experience and the non-violent Indian independence struggle, which left India determined to be the master of its fate in an international system dominated politically by Cold War alliances and economically by Western capitalism and Soviet communism. Strategic military neutrality and non-alignment. Issues regarding India's strategic military neutrality after signing of LMOA have been raised by Congress. However, it seems more likely to be an issue of as more strategic embrace with the US, rather than strategic military neutrality. Like the LMOA now, the Indo-Soviet Treaty of 1971 was criticized by many as a departure from the principles of non-alignment. But what India did with Russia was a classic balancing act against the Sino-American Entente and their special relations with Pakistan. For India's first PM, non-alignment was not about equidistance between major powers but of taking positions based on India's interest and building military partnerships when necessary. Way ahead and conclusion. Whatever the myth of strategic military neutrality might be, Delhi today cannot be neutral between China and Vietnam or between the Taliban and Kabul. As China's military power radiates into the subcontinent with ever greater vigor, Delhi has begun to react. While how LMOA will gain benefit for India might be a question, this is a welcome step to build a stable balance in the power system in the region.